Okay, so this is the meeting of the Ways and Means Education Subcommittee. We'll be taking up 3 bills today, 2 local bills, House Bill 402 and House Bill 492, and a statewide bill, House Bill 878. We will now, I'm going to turn to council to describe the student member of the board bill from Kent County. It's a local bill.
Yes, sir. So Kent County's Board of Education does not currently have a student member. So this local bill establishes a student member and sets criteria for that student member. It's a thing that many other boards of education around the state have. The amendment is very simple. It just says that the student member cannot attend backroom meetings that I should not talk about the amendment until you guys are ready.
Yeah, okay. So it adds a student member and it's a non-voting member, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And so they added an amendment to, I would say, further restrict the skills of the things that they can do, to that there sometimes are backroom meetings and boards of ed that are allowed outside of public meetings rules. They have also added an amendment that would eliminate students from going to those meetings.
That's correct. They may not attend the executive meetings under the amendment.
Okay. So is there any precedent for somebody putting that particular restriction in? Generally, this is local courtesy, and I'm going to say we should go with it. Personally, I'm sorry they're restricting student members. You all know how I stand on that, but this is sort of their thing, and I'm glad they're adding a student member at all. So if we want to discuss the amendment, that's fine. If we want to just take a motion on the amendment, I'm okay with that too.
I'm just curious if there was a vote. If there was a vote on the amendment, I'm sorry. I was just curious if there was a vote.
Very small delegation. Get ready for this. Okay. Alistair?
There was, yes, it was unanimous. All 3 members voted in favor of the amendment.
Correct. All right. So on the amendment, do I have a motion on the amendment?
Favorable on the amendment.
Second? Anyone? Thank you. It's motioned and seconded. All in favor of the amendment to restrict the student from attending backroom meetings or executive meetings, raise your hand, please.
Aye.
We have 1, 2, we have a unanimous vote on that. On the bill as amended.
Move favorable on the bill.
Thank you. It's moved and properly seconded. All in favor of the bill to add a student member to the Board of Education with the amendment, raise your hands, please.
Aye.
And it carries unanimously. That takes care of House Bill 402. House Bill 492 is an Anne Arundel County bill that has to do with ages of school buses. I'm going to also, Alistair, this one doesn't have any amendments. It's just describe the bill to us, please.
Yes, absolutely. So under the law, each county has to have their school buses on the road no longer than 12 years, unless they meet certain criteria, and only specific counties are allowed to meet those criteria. There are a number of counties who currently are allowed to have their school buses on the roads for 15 years. And the school buses need to be maintained if they're going to be on the road for those extra 3 years, including fairly extensive things that are in statute and regulation. And this is adding a county to that group of counties that can have their buses on the road for an extra 3 years.
But with no change in the requirements if they do have it for that time of age. Okay. Any discussion or a motion on the bill? I saw Herberger move his mouth, which means he moves the bill.
Move favorable.
And we have a second. The bill has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a vote on the bill. All those in favor of Anne Arundel County being able to keep their buses on the road for 15 years. Similar restrictions. There you go. Done. Okay. Now we return to some business that was at hand yesterday. This is House Bill 878, which is the telehealth bill. There was some discussion about FERPA and HIPAA and things like that. In this case, I have had someone come forward who represents physicians, and that is Pam Casemeyer, who represents, I believe, pediatricians and maybe the Medical Association of Baltimore County, the doctors of Baltimore County. Would you just, you and I had a discussion, would you just pass on some of what you told me yesterday, please?
Sorry, unmute. Thank you for the invitation to participate in. Yes, I do represent the Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics and also the State Medical Society, all of the physicians within the state and other specialty societies, but this is probably most relevant for this. So in terms of questions that arose yesterday, and if I was watching, and I think that I can answer them, but if I'm missing anything, let me know. I know there was questions about, one, there was questions about consent. This does not in any way change the consent provisions that are currently in the law. So if you cannot consent to care in the doctor's office or anywhere else, this would not create a new consent capability. That's number one. Number two, there's no liability applied to the schools for giving them a room to have the visit. For the most part, this bill, I think, is coming from, my kid needs to see his doctor. I scheduled a meeting. We're going to do it by telehealth. I don't have to take off work and the kid doesn't have to miss a lot of school. So, I mean, I think that was the initial thought about all of this. I know there were also questions about HIPAA and all of those things. They all apply. The telehealth rules, the rules for providing patient care don't change based on location. And so, and that includes all actions by the physician, I mean, or any provider. They're subject to all the same rules, requirements, regulations, communication, consent, documentation that are applicable in any other setting. This is really solely, I don't know if I want to say convenience, but another option to enhance access to care under the current telehealth framework. Did I cover everything?
Yeah, I think so. Let's find out if anybody has any further questions. We also have Dawn Lukey, who's an advocate for this concept and has been involved on both professional and personal level with some of it. But let's see if anybody has any questions about what has been said and if we need to turn to them at all. Okay, seeing none, what we do is we do have two amendments that we began to take up yesterday. I'm going to describe the amendments, and if Alistair feels like I have misrepresented them in some way, he will correct me. One amendment is to add into the early part of the bill where we're talking about the policy being developed, that the policy must include, so rather than designating what a room looks like or anything like that, we're simply going to say that their policy must include measures to ensure the safety and privacy of the student. And that then will be down to the counties to figure out what is the most inexpensive way or whatever they need to do, and the most effective way to do that to make sure that the student's safety is ensured. And then the other amendment, and we can do them both as one, was that, and I don't see them anymore, but PZAM suggested some liability problems. And so we suggested that, am I on the wrong bill, Alistair? Yes, I am. That's the other one. Well, there's a second, is that the only amendment then?
No, the second amendment makes it, instead of having every employee trained on this, they just have to be made aware that there is a telehealth policy.
The bill indicated that everyone would have to be trained in this policy. And you know how I always feel about that. And so Alistair and I worked on an amendment that just said that information would be available in the handbook and other places, you know, that they would have to make sure that information was circulated, people knew about it, and not a training, as it were. We can take them up separately. We can take them up together. Delegate Wu.
Sure, Chair, Mr. Chair. So if I want to add amendment to be make it mandatory instead mandatory to be optional, so you still have time to do that?
Optional for whom, sir?
For the school system to implement that. Because I got a feedback from Howard County Board of Education.
Yeah.
They're really afraid they don't have space and the staff to work on this. That's my huge concern. I have a huge concern.
Seems to me if we make it optional that we really don't have a bill at all, because as soon as we make it,
but at least we can see some people may think it's important, right? They move forward and begin.
So let's take up the first two amendments first, then let's discuss that one. So is there a motion on the two amendments that Alistair and I have outlined?
Move favorable.
I got a favorable and I got a second. Is there any further discussion on those two amendments? Delegate Fair, you have your hand up. Is it on the amendment or something else? Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the amendments, creating a requirement for safety and privacy and an amendment to change training into providing information, please raise your hands. Okay, we're unanimous on that. And now, Delegate, you want to add an amendment that makes it optional for schools to offer this room.
Yes, yes. So I said my huge concerns, right? So right now we don't know how much physical impact, how much staffing shortage or may impact the school system, right? And we heard from Baltimore City School, they're not able to do it for many schools, right? So we are not putting money there too, right? So if we say we put money to help you to do that, I totally support that.
Okay,
I think a lot of school systems really feel this unfunded mandate, right? I just hate to say, we put a lot of stuff on our educators and we're not supporting them. I am not supporting this bill, so.
thank you. Ms. Lukey, you were brought on to kind of comment on some of these things, so I'm gonna let you speak to that.
Yeah, so just to allay some of the school system's concerns, it actually is the language in the bill as drafted says that you don't have to create new space. So there isn't a fiscal impact on it, and there isn't, it's already optional in the way that it is phrased. It is not mandating that they do it, and it is not mandating that they create separate space. So to the extent that that's the concern of the school systems, you might need to just reorient them back to the actual language that makes it clear that they're not requiring them to do anything in a prescriptive fashion.
Thank you. Delegate Wilkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would be concerned and opposed to this amendment to make it optional. I think that that's further creating inequity in our schools, where you have some schools that have this ability for telehealth. We know which types of schools those would be, and then those without it. So I would just urge the subcommittee to, well, I don't think it's been moved yet, but I would just be opposed to this amendment being added.
Okay, so that's some initial commentary. Delegate Wu, do you want to move to see if you can move this amendment in spirit?
Yeah, I want to move make this the optional instead of mandatory.
Okay, we can certainly get that drafted, but is there a second for that amendment? Okay, I don't see a second.
I'll second. It's Delegate
Okay.
Miller.
So the amendment has been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion on it? Okay, then all in favor of the amendment that would make the telehealth room optional in the school, raise your hand, please. One.
I'm raising
I'm
my
going to
hand.
assume
having
Delegate
camera
Miller's
issues.
a yes
Yeah.
because she seconded the amendment. All opposed, please raise your hands. Okay, so the amendment doesn't carry. All right, so now we have a bill that's amended to have the two things that we amended originally. If there's no further amendments, I'll entertain discussion or a motion on the bill as amended.
I would
Move
move
to-
Bill.
I have lots of motions and seconds out there. There's plenty of them to go around. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, if you're all those in favor of House Bill 878 as amended, please raise your hands. Okay, and all those opposed? Delegate Wu, Delegate Miller, are you also opposed or in favor?
Opposed. Thank you.
Okay, so two opposed, Delegate Miller and Delegate Wu. That means we'll send the bill on for voting. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate you coming back on a Friday. Got you out of here in about 15 minutes. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Very nice to see you, Ms.
Yes,
Luther.
thank you.